The following contains spoilers for the movie Joker. Alright, welcome back everybody to the Dave Knows Comics live stream, and as already warned, in case you couldn't figure it out, today's episode will be containing spoilers for the film Joker. Now, before we get into that though, I would like to thank everybody for joining me. Welcome to the show. Hope you're enjoying your special Monday edition of the show, of the live stream here on Dave Knows Comics. Hey, what's going on, Degenerate? What's going on, Mark Strike? Hey, glad to see so many people here so bright and early. Thank you. Ooh, thumbs up right off the bat. I like it a lot. So thank you. So finally, now that I've seen the movie, I'm going to be able to talk about the movie Joker. Now, one of the first and foremost things I have to talk about is I am very guilty. I will fully admit, I am very guilty of doing the same. I've done it a lot myself, but I do get somewhat annoyed at all the videos that are explained, something explained. I do it myself. It does work. People do tend to click on it, so you kind of do it as one of those things. Thank you for the other thumbs up. It's one of those things you do because it does get people's attention. But how many things need to be explained all the time? It is like and I'm not even going to pretend like I'm not going to do it ever again. But, so, in case you're wondering about the title of this video, why is it unexplained? Well, specifically, not only am I just aggravated at that kind of thing, but, and the reason I'm aggravated is because some things don't require explanation. I've seen, like, the goofiest titles for it. Like, there are some things I find, if they are genuinely being explained, I have no problem with that, or warrant explanation. Perfectly fine with that. But I've seen some movies like movie ending of this explained, and it's like it's pretty straightforward. The bad guy lost, the good guy won. Hey, Vinny Montana. So where's the explanation needed? And it's just there solely for clickbait purposes. When I do it, I tend to do it for something that I think warrants explanation. And in this case, and again, gonna warn you again, spoilers. SpongeBob the Movie Explained, 8-second trailer. Yeah, exactly. X-Men Rumors Explained. Yeah, exactly. Mark Strike knows what I'm talking about. The ending of Joker. Now, see, this is something, on the other hand, that does warrant discussion. But I wouldn't say explanation. Because I'm going to do it. If you've been in this channel a lot, you know where I come from. You know what I'm probably going to say. So, this weird, goofy title of Unexplained is, well, in true Joker fashion, this is going to be something that's, rebellious, quirky, weird, and different. So we're going to follow that. But also, because if you follow this channel, you know where I'm coming from. Fictional characters. It's something that I think is most important to remember, especially in this case. Because when and I'm not just dismissing that because I'm trying to shoot down what people love. No. The reason I bring this up is because when we remember that this is a film, that this is a fictional film written and directed and portrayed by actors, writers, and directors. When we realize that this is this template, then that's where we can have the most fun with it, when we understand the format. When we start pretending it's something that it's not, that's when we have issues. I've heard this about the microwave. People talk about trying to cook certain things in the microwave and it doesn't turn out right because, as Alton Brown, I believe, put it, microwaves are good as long as you don't ask it to do things that a microwave can't do. And it's pretty much the same thing with movies and film. So the number one thing, and the number one thing here is that for the ending of the Joker, some people are going to say, well, what happened after the movie stopped? What happened? Did he become Jared Leto? Did he walk down the hallway? Was it real? Did it happen? It's a movie. No, it didn't happen. You know why? Because none of it happened because it's a movie. But if we are going to remember that it's a fictional film, and we are going to be able to dissect the decisions made by the writers, the directors, and even the actors, and all the people behind it, if we're going to be able to dissect what they were going for, now we can start discussing more things. Now we can start putting clues together. Now we could discuss that in the context of the film, in the canon of the film, whether these events transpired the way they were supposed to or not. Now we can actually enjoy this conversation as long as we remember that once the camera stopped rolling, nothing else happened because they ain't real. So there we go. So that's what the whole purpose behind this unexplained thing is. So we got that out of the way. All right, but let's catch on to anything. But yes, the ending was amazing. I love the mill. First, let's get that out of the way too. I love the movie. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. In every way. It was absolutely hit the mark. And as some of you who follow my other channel might be expecting, just so you know, well, it's nice that something this weekend ended the way it should have and made sense. Anyway, Did you like the thing with the blood in the end? We'll definitely talk about that. How do you feel about the theory, the hypothesis that the whole movie was all in Joker's head? We'll get into that for sure. So, is it true that is it true will watching Joker be an excuse enough for beating the tar out of you, Jonas? You attempting? You mean you more mean attempting? Because I'm pretty sure you fight like a little kid, like kicking my shin. I'm pretty sure that's how you fight, Vinny. I mean, Arthur. Sorry. I was looking at Vinny's name. Not you, Vinny. You're the man. Arthur. Sorry. Speaking of which, your name is Arthur, too. Notice something here. Ben Espinosa. Hey, Dave, I didn't realize that you were live on the comic. I just got on until I got the notification on YouTube. Well, good to see it's working. Will we get an Oscar nod? I'm not sure. There's a possibility. It's if they submit them to that. As you know, Heath Ledger won as the Joker, so there is precedent for it. So his performance was very good. I really liked it a lot. And I was watching an interview with the director who actually says, contrary to what a lot of people believe, that Joaquin was a method actor, he actually is like a completely normal person. He does do interesting things to get in the mindset, but they said they were just talking and joking like in between takes, like normal people. Try and see what happens. Yeah. Anyway, that's what I got to say to you, Arthur. All right, so let's go on to it. All right, so for those of you, and I think I've given you more than enough ample time to realize that there's a spoiler behind this. Arthur's a supervillain who is the Joker's son. He's not. The word "super" needs to be removed from that because he's definitely not super. Maybe super annoying. Maybe super bad taste. But okay, so here's the way the film goes. Joker is in the streets, and also I want to point out that I want to know if this was intentional or not because there was an old Joker quote out there, you know, laugh and the world laughs with you. And he talks about chaos in the streets. I do want to know if that was intentional, an intentional nod to that old Joker quote. Hey, what's up, Harry Flynn? I want to know if that was an intentional nod or just a coincidence. Anyway, so the Joker's in the streets. The people are mobbing him, or all around him, all wearing Joker fans, cheering him, carrying him, breaking him out of the cop car, holding him up, and all happy and celebrating. And then it fades out, and then we go as the riots in Gotham streets, as all the oppressed are fighting back against their oppressors, or fighting, or you know the not well-to-do are fighting up against the rising against society, and at the end, it fades to black. And when it comes back, we see. Oh yeah, hold on. Why would I just talk to you about it? When it fades up from black, we see Arthur is in a hospital. Back in a mental facility. Now, he's also mentioned, and Arthur also mentioned that he sometimes prefers back. Now, we found out that this is not his only time in one of these, in this mental facility. Probably Arkham, presumably. It's not his first time, and earlier in the film, he did mention that part of him thinks he might like it better there. Which would be, to me, a great idea. That's why Joker always ends up back in Arkham, because he actually likes it there. And then he's talking to his therapist, and the shot cuts out to him running in this hallway. And in this hallway, he runs off, and you see bloody footprints on the ground. That picture doesn't show it, but he shows bloody footprint. His footprints leaves bloody footprints across the ground as he runs, and then the film closes with him running, being chased by orderlies, running back and forth, and that's how the film ends. And it says the end. And some people were wondering, is there a chance that this is all in his head? What is the ending trying to say? Is it saying that it's all in his head and none of this happened, none of the prior events in the movie happened, or is it real? Did it happen? For sure. So before we get into that, let's find out. You guys, let's discuss this. What do you guys think? Arthur Price says, and Aston was the best Riddler ever. I don't think anyone has ever said that until right now. My Kofi bet went up. It's all right, buddy. Like I said, I don't want nothing for that Kofi thing because I knew that's exactly what was going to happen. Maybe not to that T, but I knew there was no chance. So did you like and how they had Bruce Wayne's pain? Yeah, no, I like that. You needed to incorporate Bruce Wayne in that aspect, and I thought it was a. There's some guy now. I prefer Joe Chill being the guy for Batman's parents, but I know there are some people who really like the idea that it was introduced in the Batman Tim Burton film that it was the Joker who got the Batman's parents. I prefer Joe Chill. However, I will say I don't mind the idea that it's the Joker. There are also some people out there who just absolutely hate the idea that it's Joker, and I don't hate it. I prefer Joe Chill, but I don't hate. I don't hate it. Hey, Dave. Only thing the Joker is known for. Different guy, buddy. Arthur should just stay in that crazy place. They kick him out. Nobody would want him there. I wouldn't wish that upon people. I wouldn't wish that upon the people in Arkham. Not to go on topic, but did you check out Batwoman? I did not. I think he. Oh, clown raid at the end of the film. Okay, so Vinny Montaigne says he believes that the events of the film happened and they went to the Arkham after the fact. Robert England's better. Really? Oh, wow. Deep cut. Good for you, buddy. Harry. Good job, man. I'm getting everyone's names wrong today. It all makes sense. Arthur is a Skrull, and the Joker also gave him clown syndrome. Okay, so now this is the way I'll put it down there. To me, the events of the film definitely happened. They weren't all, other than the ones that were expressly showed to be in the Joker's head, weren't in the Joker's head. They definitely happened to me. And the reason I'm going to go over this, again, number one, that this is a film. So my rule for all these things is, now I know that endings like this are designed specifically just to incur discussion. There's no real answer. There's no right answer. It's up for interpretation to whoever is watching or wants to talk about it. So let's get that out of the way. It's a big interpretation kind of film. And there's plenty of movies like this that are out there for interpretation. But when it comes to my own personal preference or my own personal interpretation of a film, I say I go by the clues of what the film gives me. I don't start extrapolating ideas that aren't there. I will go strictly on what is provided to me by the film itself. So, when we see the bloody footprints, we get the impression that he killed somebody. Now, unless you could say, because we could play the crazy game all day, we could say that those footprints really aren't there, and that's another hallucination. If that's true, we could do that about everything until the cows come home. We could do that about every single film ever, that we could say whatever we're watching is craziness and didn't happen. And if that's the case, then we have nothing. So we have to stand on something. We have to stand by some pieces of evidence. And since this world did show several things happened in his head, but then they showed us that it was all in his head and it wasn't real. They, like the girlfriend, like so many, like the other things that happened, they backtracked and gave us flashbacks to say, nope, that didn't really occur. That's in his head. Without showing us that, I have no reason to assume that it happened in his head. I'm left to believe that it really did happen. It did transpire. The events did transpire because that the film didn't give me the rule that they established. They established a rule that if something is happening in his head, they will reveal it to me. And without revealing it to me, I have to believe that I have to take it for existing. It takes some time to catch up to the chat. I think the girl that thought he was dating her was all in his head. He was just a stranger to her. I think the girl that thought... The girl is not dating him. Yeah, that is a stranger. Yeah, like, they barely know each other. That is definitely established. They established that in the film. AEW is going to inspire a copycat Joker and Albert. Okay, maybe. Crazy. Oh, you mean thinking Alexa doesn't... She doesn't look 67. Nobody thinks that but you. I think Thomas Wayne was really Arthur Fleck's and his son, and he used his money to manipulate adoption. Okay, cool. We'll totally talk about that a little bit. Are you going live channel? Albert's not here today, so I don't have plan to go onto the wrestling channel. If you guys, we'll talk about this later, and if you guys want, I'll switch over. But I did not plan on it. I actually planned to film an episode for the wrestling channel, but I wasn't planning on going to live stream, but we can discuss that later. I'm really kind of turned off to wrestling after this weekend, so Arthur is playing his heel villain role. Being, whatever. So, okay. So, the footprints there's nothing to indicate, especially since it's the last shot of the film, there's nothing to tell me that that's not there. So, because of that, I'm assuming that he did something extremely violent to that therapist. Now, just because he did something violent to her does not mean in any shape or form that all the events couldn't be faked. That doesn't negate that. No. But again, they never showed me anything to believe that all those prior events were faked. And they also didn't show me, but knowing that he killed the therapist or did something to the therapist, it's harmful enough that I understand that this is probably not his first time doing that. So therefore, it leads me up to the belief that this is just another string of events. And yes, it totally makes sense that after, killing Robert De Niro's character on TV and he was arrested. They did arrest him. He was taken in the cop car. There's a lot to assume that he would go to a mental facility anyway. Like, there's no reason to think that they wouldn't bring him to Arkham. So that tracks as well. It's not just some random thing where he just happens to wake up in a mental institution, but there was nothing to give you that idea. Another example of this being done well is the show Community, season 3. There was a great episode where they just do that, where you could twist anything to say it's a mental illness hallucination, and it doesn't, it's not you could do that to anything. So you have to have some ground rules to establish something, or else it's like, ooh, what a twist. Like, no. But anyway, the major plot to me is when you look at films that are up for people's interpretations, though, or something that might be in their head or stuff like that, the real key to it, you have to look at the things that aren't happening to the main character. If, for example, because it just doesn't make sense. So, like, for example, if somebody is having like a dream, and it turns out, oh, it was all a dream all along, there shouldn't be A stories and B stories. Like, there shouldn't be stuff that has nothing to do with them. Or, okay, like a really good example that has been brought up is Ferris Bueller, because some people have some uber nerds on the internet have said, oh, the whole movie is just in Cameron's head, and he hallucinated everything, and Ferris isn't real. He's a hallucination in Cameron's mind of what Cameron wants to be. That can't be true. That's just silly talk. And here's why. There's a lot of Ferris Bueller talking to the camera. Why is Cameron hallucinating things that he's not around for? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if, let's say Cameron's not real. Let's say Ferris isn't real and he's a hallucination to Cameron. Cameron is just hallucinating Ferris hanging out in his bed. He's hallucinating Cameron is also hallucinating Ferris's parents and Ferris's parents' interaction and Ferris's dad in the car, like going, like in the cab, going to work, going to dinner. Like, it's just no one. If that was true, nobody would think that. Nobody would do that. That doesn't track. And it's the same thing with the Joker movie. So yes, there are some things that he hallucinates but they show it. But there are some things that have nothing to do with him. And if those things aren't real, why is he hallucinating them? Especially because if you're hallucinating something else happening to someone else, that's weird. Like, what are you doing while that happens? You just sit there in a suspended animation state, imagining something else, and then cut back to your regular life? No. So if these hallucinations are, so there's certain things that we know are incorporated in the world, and if they're not, it doesn't make any sense. And the biggest one of things that we see that has nothing to do with the Joker, because he's not in every shot, is what happens to the Waynes, in Crime Alley. So when they're taking young Bruce out of the movie theater, and both of his parents there, and we see the whole thing, them getting shot, and the pearls and all thing, and I mean, we had to see it just one more time, at least one more time, because we always have to see that origin over and over again. And they're always pearls. I would love to know why pearls are in every single time. It's like, why is this a mandate? Batman's mom has pearls. I would love to know what is the reason that has to be true. Sometimes Thomas has a mustache. Sometimes he doesn't have a mustache. Sometimes Batman's mom is blonde. Sometimes her hair is dark. But one thing that's always constant, they always have those stupid pearls. Anyway, that diatribe over. That happened. Now, we know from comic book lore, and I mean, there's probably no sequel, or nothing necessarily tying this into the larger DCEU. However, we know from common sense that Batman's parents do get shot in Crime Alley. So that did happen during the riots, where he was not a part of. So either he hallucinated something that did happen, or a real event was smuggled into his hallucination. That doesn't make any sense. It had to have really happened, and the Wayne's fate in Crime Alley totally validates the entire scenario of the riots in the streets. And if the riots are accurate, then so must, and they're all wearing clown masks, then so must the Joker, and therefore, backtracking it, therefore, so does his appearance on the talk show, so does everything that tracks before, and all those other things. And plus, we also notice, the other major things for me is that we notice all of Joker's hallucinations are all things that you want. Like, he imagines things like, ooh, I would like to be with this girl. And he imagines that they're together in a relationship and things are going good for him. Like, those are the things he imagines. He doesn't imagine bad things. Now, yeah, he did imagine himself in the talk show prior, but he imagines himself there twice. That would be weird if the second time was a hallucination. Furthermore, remember, he got there because he was humiliated because of his bombing stand-up act. He was ridiculed. He wouldn't he wouldn't fantasize or hallucinate something where he was ridiculed to that point. That didn't make any sense. And time to catch up on the chat. I thought it was pretty creepy when Arthur started talking to young Bruce Wayne. Yes, that was extraordinarily uncomfortable. The pearls is the memory that he keeps to drive out. But it's in every one. You can't skip one. It's not that important. It's not that important of an image. I'm sorry. It really isn't. We had one version of Dick Grayson's parents getting shot in the head. Not even the trapeze thing. They changed that. Well, I mean, nobody likes that. And it was Frank Miller. But still, point of the matter is, there's been variations on origins out the wazoo. Why is this the one constant that just no one will ever break? No one will ever show that origin without the pearls. Even if it's like a 2-second flashback, you're going to see some pearls fall to the ground. It's not that good. Can we stop calling Joker Arthur? I know that's his real name, but it creeps me out. Ooh, another cool thing about Arthur, the Joker. By the way, did you know the first time? I'm not going to do it. The other thing about it is, what I like is Joker's real name is technically still unrevealed because as the film shows, he was adopted. So what his birth name was, we don't know. So Arthur technically isn't really his real name. I mean, sure, for all legal intents and purposes, and yeah, of course it is. But those people, there are some people, fans who were upset that their Joker had a name now and it's Arthur Fleck instead of Jack Napier or Joe Kerr or whatever it is. But for all those people who didn't like that, oh, hey, doors open for you because theoretically you could at least say his real name was not revealed. So for some people, you can have that little baby blanket logic to hold on to. I like them how he was always dancing. Yeah, the dancing was an interesting choice. The director said it was because Joker was supposed to have music in his soul. He was supposed to be like a musical person, like a lot of always have a song in his heart, and it's always coming out. It was supposed to be a very musical person. So the idea of dance. So and I like that, but I also like that the laughing was a condition. I thought like a mental condition. I thought that was a really cool touch. At first, aside from the opening, when from the intro, when they actually come back from the title and they show him in the first therapist's office and he's just laughing, it's just a close up of him laughing, and it goes on for like a long time. I was like, wow, I am really uncomfortable by this, and I'm like, I know that's what they want from me. I'm still like really uncomfortable. Like, can they stop showing this? I was telling myself, when I buy this on digital, I am going to be fast forwarding. Like every time I rewatch this film, I'm going to just skip this 10 seconds because I don't like seeing this. And I love when he's walking down the hallway from the Joker, and he laughs, and then his face just goes back to normal. It was that I really, really liked. So as uncomfortable as it made me, I really liked it. And the director also said the idea was everything was supposed to give you this sense of tension, this sense of uncomfort, unsettling feel. And man, did they achieve that! It's a very, very unsettling film to sit through, intentionally. And it's like, I feel weird about this. And they nuke it for all it's worth, and they pulled it off. And the look of the film is absolutely fantastic. Similar to like Munich and other films where they give it that almost grain, that little subdued, almost super 80 kind of look to it for you film nerds out there. And I'm not knocking you. I am myself. That's the reason why I'm bringing this up. I love that look. I just love the look. Oh, and I like the old school Warner Brothers logo that came up because that actually changed over in my lifetime when I was like a little kid. And I don't think I was really able to read when it first switched over the Warner Brothers logo. So I think when I was that young, I didn't know. I didn't understand movie companies so much, but I knew I saw them in the beginning of films enough. And I remember when I learned to read, that's when I pieced together, that's the same movie company. They're both Warner Brothers. It was like one of those things, like, no kidding. I like De Niro's character. De Niro's character was cool. He was Johnny Carson, but with a rougher tinge to it. But the thing is, it's like, I kind of feel, I don't think he did anything wrong per se, other than making fun of Arthur. Arthur Fleck, the Joker. Not Arthur Pryor. Anyone can make fun of Arthur Pryor that they want to. And it's easy to do. He gives you a lot of chances for it, and he deserves it. Anyway, there were certain times in the film that I think when he suffocated his mother was what I thought was, that definitely is a dark and creepy thing to do. Is there a demand for a Hawkeye movie? I don't think there is. I don't hate on Hawkeye like a lot of people do. A lot of people hated him and didn't think he was a valuable inventor. And look, I get it. You shoot bow and arrow. It's really not that big of a superpower. But still, there are things that are non-superpowers that you see all the time. Like, I was also noticing this, like in Shazam where he punches through the wall after he flosses, and Batman and Bane and Dark Knight Rises punching through those concrete things and all that stuff like that. There's a lot of punching through bricks and concrete, but we can do that in the real world. Like if you ever been to like a martial arts like expo, people do that in like karate class. Like humans can't break through concrete with their fist. So it's not like the craziest thing to think of, but yet in film, visually, it works. There are a lot of things that work, even though they're not necessarily superpowers, and we can do them in the real world. And so when it comes to archery, well, I don't take up archery. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It doesn't appeal to me per se. I will say it is one of those things that even though it is not super heroic, even though we have it in the real world, Hawkeye's existence in the Avengers makes sense to me because visually I get it. Like punching through brick, it's just one of those things where I'm like, okay, in this universe, even though there are normal people in the real world who can do it, I buy that this can be a credible feat for superheroes, for people in a superhero battle. Okay, I don't know why they made Joker crazy. Jack Nagers, he wasn't crazy, just a criminal. Not necessarily true, Arthur, but they'd have to go to comic book law for that. All right, he's had many different interpretations over the years, especially from the Silver Era and all that. But who's to say who's crazy? Hawkeye is getting his own Disney Plus show. That is true. Good point, Arthur. The film's whole aesthetic was a love letter to Martin Scorsese's film. Abso-freaking-lutely it was, especially Taxi Driver and especially The King of Comedy. Those two films, it's really just a mashup of those two films with Joker skin painted on it. It absolutely was. Now, I'm not begrudging that. I think it's a good idea because it was very Taxi Driver-esque. And thank you for bringing that up. Because on the ending of it, there are people out there who interpret the same thing with Taxi Driver. Because Taxi Driver, some people have interpreted that the ending is all in his head, Travis Bickle's head, because he's lauded as a hero for saving the young girl, which is what he always wanted to do. But the other giveaway is that he has different hair. That his hair is long again, and he doesn't have the mohawk like he did in the film. So some people have pointed to that out. So I also think, just remembering that there's also, and by the way, I have a lot of B-roll to go to. I haven't really used a lot of it, so I think I'm just going to start pointing at things randomly. Similar to, because here, he's looking in a mirror, just like Taxi Driver looked in a mirror. This was relevant, I swear. Okay, so he looks in a mirror. Just like Taxi Driver, that ending, a lot of people took it up for interpretation. Now, I think there's more of a valid case to say that there was a chance that he's hallucinating in Taxi Driver, even though they didn't really give you any reason to assume that Taxi Driver is hallucinating. You'd say with the massive blood loss at the end of the film. I don't believe that, but I think there's more meat behind that than there is Joker. But because it's the same thing, because it's a homage to that film, and because people have taken that as interpretation or have taken that route with it, of course, Joker is going to hit that nail on the head and play that same note because it's really just trying to be another Taxi Driver. And so it's the same thing where it's a guy under villainous circumstances, believes himself to be the hero, does things a certain way, and kind of thinks of himself as a hero in the end, and gets treated as one. So who knows if he actually is or not. You think Alexa is prettier than Sonya Deville? Of course she's prettier than Sonya Deville. She's the prettiest woman in all of wrestling. Duh. So yeah, there is that. So I think I understand. So I look at it that's yet another thing because it's a film, because these are fictional characters. They're playing on the same using a lot of the same notes, same things as Joker, as other films are, because it's fictional and they can do that. There doesn't have to be laws of physics or reality or anything kicking in for that. And as for the beginning, the possibility of him being Bruce Wayne's brother, Thomas Wayne's son. Yes, you are crazy, Arthur. Again, just kind of clicking this idea. This would have been perfect when we were talking about the dancing. Anyway, the idea of him possibly being Thomas Wayne's son. So what happened in the film, just to refresh, is that it was alluded to and eventually revealed in his mother's letter that Thomas Wayne and his mother had an affair, and he is Thomas Wayne's son. And his mother believed that that Thomas Wayne would send the money if he knew how they were struggling financially. And then he goes to confront Thomas Wayne. Thomas Wayne says, "Nope, you were adopted. And you were abused, and all this stuff, and that's why you have the condition that you have." with the laughing and all that stuff. I'm not your father, and if you ever touch my kid again, I'll kill you. Which I thought was pretty cool of Thomas Wayne. So some people have said that is true, and other people have interpreted it as that is fake. Thomas Wayne used his money to cover it up. Now, personally speaking, I will start this by saying I love the idea that the Waynes were not good people. I really do. I love the idea that Thomas and Martha were actually scuzzy rich people, or they were less than perfect, less than savory individuals. They achieved their money by ill-gotten gains. I prefer that to the idea that, oh, they were all these sweet, perfect people who. I like that the idea is that Bruce, in his head, glorified his parents after the fact. And in his head, he put them on this pedestal. And, of course, nobody's going to correct him about that. But he put his parents on this pedestal. Meanwhile, they're really not all that great. So I love that idea. I always have. I got a new subscriber. So I've always what would a Joker and Thanos conversation be like? Like a bag of ferrets. So I love the interpretation that the Waynes weren't great people. It's just always fascinating to me. I've always thought it was a good thing. It's just more interesting that way if it's just in Batman's head they're as altruistic as all that, but in reality they're not. However, with that being said, I don't think that's the case in this film. I don't think Thomas Wayne used his money to cover up his tawdry affair. And again, I love the idea that they are actually, they had affairs on each other. They were terrible people. They were scuzzy and ill, and tons of ill-gotten gains. Yay, that one a year. Ha ha ha, buddy. You're one of them. So anyway, Joker movie part of DCEU. We'll talk about that momentarily. So going back to the ideas of the father, is Thomas Wayne the father? Now, the reason why I don't think so, or even though I would be okay with the interpretation. I would be okay if it actually turned out to be the case. And usually I'm very much against the main villains being brothers, because there were some people way back when who were trying to come up with the idea to pitch that Lex Luthor and Superman were brothers, which I think is stupid. I didn't like this Inspector either. Even though they weren't really brothers, I didn't like that interpretation either. That was also stupid. I don't need the arch villains to have connections with each other, interpersonal family connections. They could just be villains. They could just be two random guys who didn't meet until adulthood and they hate each other. And it's like, that's perfectly fine. Not everybody needs to be related. However, in this one context, I wouldn't mind it. Now, the reason I don't think they're actually related and that Thomas Wayne isn't actually the father is, well, you can go. It's definitely still there, and I believe, if I remember it correctly, I think the actor who played Thomas Wayne said he interpreted that was true, that he is the father, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that is what he said in an interview. However, the reason why I don't think that it is so is because there are certain things that, if it is so, does that mean that Arthur just grew up, was just born with this laughing disorder? Because the paper saying that he developed the disorder because of abuse that a boyfriend of hers gave the kid makes more sense to me. Or at least it's there. Because if that's covered up and if that's not true, then what about the mother? What about that boyfriend? Does he exist? And if so, what happened? Did that abuse not happen? Where was that? We don't get an explanation for why he left if that's not true. So, and those medical records, and that's a lot of things to fake. And once again, in this world where you're just saying he's rich and he bought everybody off, sure, but that's an awfully elaborate amount of detail to add that doesn't contribute anything to the story. So if you're just trying to cover up, that this kid is your illegitimate son, you wouldn't add the details about the ex-boyfriend beating him up and all that stuff like that. That's going a little further because you already did your due diligence. You don't need to add anything to it. It's not like you yourself have a laughing condition and you're like, well, I got to explain why the kid has it and so do I, but we're not related. So you wouldn't fake that detail. That doesn't make any sense. So the adoption thing, so I say the adoption things goes hand in hand. And it's got to be true. And he can't be his father just because of that. The boyfriend is Bruce's dad. I hear you. That's actually a possibility, but I don't think so because again, it's an elaborate thing. Hey Dave, is the Joker movie a horror movie or a drama movie? It's a drama. It's not horror. I would not say it's a horror film. But also eh, on top of that, because there is some meat to that, but the other reason I don't think so is because again, if you're Thomas Wayne, why would you get your hands dirty? It's an unimportant thing. But the other reason why I back this up is because I think it's clear that his mother does have mental health issues. So her being diagnosed as crazy and spending time in Arkham, well, it's like, yeah, like, is anybody surprised by this? Does she seem sane to you? So it doesn't seem like something he'd really have to work hard for. Plus, it seems that she probably did have sessions there, and that's probably where Arthur got it from. So he does have a case of the giggles, Harry. Arthur does have a case of the giggles. So that's the other reason why I think so too, is because it's the mental illness. Again, what do we have to go on? And if this is not true, if this is another lie, where's the evidence to support that it's a lie? And if it is a lie, what about X, Y, and Z? Then what's the answer to that? Why did this happen? If if an explanation is faked in the film, if it's not canon and it's just a lie in canon, then what are we supplementing it with? So to me, if you don't show me that the lie is a lie, there's no reason for me to doubt you unless you give me clear cut signs. And if you give me explanations for one thing, then you can't just tell me that's a lie without giving me another explanation for it. Okay, you two knuckleheads are just doing it on purpose now. We were doing it on purpose before we knew what we were doing. You didn't just start doing it on purpose now, Arthur. So that's what I feel about him being Thomas's son. Even though I would like it if it was, in this context, I don't really think so. Hey, Dave, is Joaquin Phoenix in the Joker movie? I had to Google it to find out. Yes, he is. Joaquin Phoenix is the Joker in the movie. All right. So what was the other thing to talk about is what Jared Leto, Joaquin Phoenix's son, and Arthur Fleck's son. Is he Arthur's son? Is Jared Leto Arthur's son? Arthur's son could be Jared Leto. Is Arthur Fleck the Joker character's son? The Jared Leto from the Suicide Squad film. Now that's a question we have. And is it connected? And is the film connected to DCEU? Now they have said that they're really not trying to connect things, interconnected films anymore. They kind of realized they tried too hard with that, and they wound up doing a bad job. So now they're just trying to tell really good stories. For me, this is an Elseworld story. I don't think it connects to the greater DCEU, and I also don't think they've made the decision yet. If you want to go for the route that there is going to be, and I thoroughly believe there will be no sequel to this Joker film. I don't think there will be a follow-up. I don't think they'll do anything to it. In the best, if they ever decide to revisit DCEU, which will also be difficult because they are losing a lot of things. Allegedly, Henry Cavill is out of playing Superman. Ben Affleck is out of the role. Like, there's too much going on to say what is, what isn't. I mean, who knows if the next Wonder Woman movie will even be in the DCEU, technically speaking. There are some that have even said Aquaman is not in the DCEU, although they do mention Steppenwolf, so I'm not sure about that. But either way, it just seems that they're telling good stories, regardless of trying to figure out how they connect, if they do at all. Which is good. I like that approach. But when it comes to the Joker and the Jared Leto thing, it could be, but they've shown that this Joker has inspired people, has inspired the people with less wit on the lower class side, on the poverty side. They've showed that these people want to fight, are willing to be inspired by the Joker, and that there is a precedence for people taking on the mantle. So and age-wise, it wouldn't make sense for this Joker in the 80s to be the same guy as Jared Leto's character, and they're very different characters, so it wouldn't make any sense. So I think that we could dismiss right away. But some have said maybe he's the son of Arthur Fleck. Well, if that's true, I find it odd only because, look, Arthur really hasn't been so good with the ladies. So the idea that he could procreate seems a little far-fetched to me. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not saying that he's anything other than that. It's just, he's shown that he's kind of a lonely dude. Not exactly the most, just Just saying. He's giving us no reason to think that he's gonna get a woman. So I kind of just I don't know. I just don't think he had a son. Still could be somebody generations later taking on the mantle, kind of like in Batman Beyond, where it's like, oh, we're the Jokers and there's a gang of Jokers. Maybe it's that. But as for the way I see it, there's nothing specifically tying this film with any of the other films. I don't think they intend for it to be. I don't think they're aiming as such. I think it's just whatever at this moment. But I really don't think that they are going to include it. But I also don't think they'll do anything to exclude it. They won't ever do anything to say that this definitely never happened or that it did. I think they're just going to kind of leave it where it is. Do you think art house superhero films will be DC's niche? It's going to be hard. They won't be able to do it with everybody. I'll tell you that right now. But I wouldn't mind it. I really wouldn't mind it. But it's hard to do like an art house Green Lantern. Like that's not going to be an easy sell. It's like Batman characters because he's a regular dude and lives in a regular dude world for the most part. It's much easier to interpret things that way. But I think the biggest strength is that DC shouldn't be trying to stick to anything to one thing. But yeah, they're niche. But hey, look, DC films are kicking on. Joker, outstanding movie. Shazam, I love that movie. Aquaman, it's all right. I like it. Wonder Woman, very good movie. But Shazam, I was watching Shazam before it came out. I love that movie. I watched it like a million times. So I think DC's just do their thing in separate and stay it that way, and they're going to do a good job with it. Oh, by the way, thank you for all the thumbs up and thank you for the likes. So that's kind of what I feel. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Anything you want to discuss? Anything I missed out on or forgot to discuss about the Joker film and the ending, now that we've deconstructed it as a film, looking at it from its interpretations as a just reimagining of not only the Joker but also certain Scorsese films, also remembering that these are fictional characters and there is no what happened after the camera stopped rolling, because guess what, nothing happened because it's fake, but also reminding us by looking at the context and talking about whether or not these examples are real or not. Yeah, that's right, Arthur, the Shaq movie. And talking about all these things. So now that we've talked about the ending as well as a lot of the other points of the film, well, what do you guys think? Is there anything else that you guys would like to discuss? And also, might as well ask, do you want me to go on the wrestling channel, or are you guys good for today? How do you guys feel? And as you can figure out, I'm not watching Raw, and yeah, very, very rough going when it comes to wrestling right now. So let's see what you guys say. Anything else you want to discuss, and do you want me to go over to wrestling channel? Let me know. Gonna give it a little bit of time before I get on out of here. Blah, 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 Arthur. Blah, blah, blah. Get a new tune, Mr. Doesn't Know Anything. Hey, Dave, go to Wrestling Channel. All right, Ben Espinoza, 1 vote for going over to Wrestling Channel. Anyone else? Because it seems like we're doing pretty good here. So I think we've wrapped up all the Joker stuff. Somebody else say something. All right. Harry Flynn says, have a good night. All right. Next vote was going to make the decision. 1 for good, 1 for no. I like the ending. You would, Arthur. Of course you would. Because you are a dumb. Next vote decides it. Arthur, what say you? Wrestling channel? No wrestling channel. What does Dumb Dumb have to say? Anybody wants to vote? All right, cool. I'm going to go get myself a refill in the water. Then I'll be right over on the wrestling channel. So I'll join you guys there momentarily. See you on Dave Knows Wrestling, and thank you so much for the thumbs up, and thank you for being a part of this chat. And hey, if you're watching this later on, in the comments, let me know what your interpretations of the Joker film are. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, Dave Knows.